A tech giant revered by gamers for its premium hardware, but behind the scenes, a pattern of deception was unfolding, costing consumers dearly. This is how one YouTuber uncovered ASUS's shocking warranty fraud, not once, but twice, leading to a dramatic face-to-face confrontation. At its peak, ASUS dominated the market. Out of an estimated 37 million motherboard sales, a staggering 15 million came from ASUS, leaving competitors like Gigabyte trailing with 9 million. This translated to over 38% of the global market share for the $10 billion company. But even more formidable than their market presence was their reputation. ASUS was the enthusiast's choice, celebrated for innovation, reliability, and exceptional performance. Their Republic of Gamers brand was a powerhouse in the gaming world. Beyond motherboards, ASUS's reach extended across the entire PC gaming ecosystem, from GPUs and laptops to monitors and handhelds, covering virtually every product line. However, this seemingly unblemished reputation began to crack. In early 2023, a disturbing trend emerged. Users reported their AMD Ryzen CPUs, particularly the 7000X 3D series, were physically bulging and showing charring. This naturally caused widespread alarm. As the community investigated, a common thread quickly became apparent: ASUS motherboards, specifically the ASUS 7800X 3D. More and more customers started reporting similar incidents. What was causing this catastrophic failure? The answer would lead to ASUS's worst nightmare. Amidst online discussions, a comment surfaced from a user offering to purchase both the affected motherboard and CPU for a full investigation. This was Gamers Nexus, a renowned hardware review and tech journalism channel, and their subsequent findings would shake the industry. Here's what Gamers Nexus uncovered. Within the ASUS BIOS, or Basic Input-Output System, there's an overclocking setting known as EXPO. This feature allows RAM to operate at its advertised high speeds, rather than the slower default. Overclocking is a common practice among gamers looking to maximize performance. When EXPO is enabled, the motherboard must also increase a separate voltage, called SOC, which powers the CPU. The critical discovery was that ASUS was setting this voltage far too high. While the ASUS motherboard's BIOS displayed 135 volts, already a high value for an AMD CPU, Steve from Gamers Nexus physically measured the actual voltage on the motherboard, revealing it was between 139 and even 1.4 volts. Though this difference might seem negligible, it was more than enough to physically burn the CPU. Remarkably, in an attempt to rectify the issue, ASUS managed to exacerbate the problem. They released BIOS version 1410, but users quickly spotted a deeply concerning clause: ASUS does not give any warranties as to the suitability, compatibility, or usability of the UEFI, its firmware or any of its content. In essence, by downloading the supposed fix, customers would inadvertently void their motherboard warranty. This was an outrageous move, but it somehow got worse. ASUS also stated that any intentional manipulation can damage the processor, socket and motherboard. While technically true, this statement was subtly aimed at EXPO, a heavily marketed and widely used feature that was causing the problem due to their own incorrect voltage settings. To add insult to injury, ASUS quietly removed all older BIOS versions from their download page. This left customers with an impossible choice: either remain on the original BIOS and risk burning their CPU, or install the fix and sacrifice their warranty. A no-win situation for consumers, but seemingly a win for ASUS. Steve further highlighted that adhering to ASUS's implicit guidance to avoid EXPO would lead to significant performance drops on the very gaming motherboard customers had invested hundreds of dollars in. Gamers Nexus's follow-up video quickly garnered over 1 million views in a single month, and the outrage spread like wildfire. Comments poured in, with one user sarcastically noting, "For those who dare," went from a live, love, laugh marketing tag to an actual threat. Another lamented, "I don't understand how ASUS went from slightly more expensive but feature-rich and reliable a decade ago to overpriced gimmicks and missing out on important features. Massive shame." ASUS used to be one of the brands I could trust. ASUS's once prestigious reputation was crumbling. The irony was that even with the burning CPU issue, the situation could have been handled very differently. So, how did ASUS respond? They eventually issued a statement: "We want to address the concerns that have been raised by our users about whether recent BIOS updates will impact the warranty of ASUS AM5 motherboards." They clarified that, despite the wording in their BIOS update, the warranty would cover the motherboard, even with Expo enabled. However, there was no mention of compensation for customers whose CPUs had already been damaged. This, shockingly, was just the prelude. The worst of ASUS's practices was yet to be exposed, and once again, the same YouTuber was poised to uncover it. This time, the confrontation would be different, setting off a chain reaction that would lead to Steve from Gamers Nexus directly confronting ASUS face-to-face. Beyond the CPU debacle, ASUS was unfortunately notorious for its abysmal customer service. Reports frequently surfaced of the company actively seeking ways to void warranties, and in some cases, even causing further damage to devices during repair. One customer recounted, "I sent my laptop for repair. The problem was fixed, but I received it back with new damages. There is now a dent on the back of the screen that wasn't there before, and there are slight bulges on the left and right sides of the trackpad." Another user described the experience: "Not only are customers' devices treated poorly, but they also try to make customers pay for something that should actually be covered by the warranty. To be honest, the entire process feels like dealing with a fraudulent company that is trying to scam you." Such accounts were alarmingly common, yet consumers felt powerless. ASUS, with its immense market leverage, appeared to hold all the cards. However, every so often, a situation arises where someone manages to completely flip that power dynamic. Precisely 1 year after the CPU burning scandal, Gamers Nexus dispatched a defective ROG Ally handheld to ASUS for repair. Unbeknownst to ASUS, this was a meticulously planned experiment, with every step thoroughly documented. Immediately upon receiving the ROG Ally, red flags began to emerge. ASUS promptly claimed the device exhibited signs of damage which is not covered under warranty. The crucial question was, what exactly was this alleged damage? The situation grew even more bizarre when ASUS failed to acknowledge the actual problem, a faulty joystick, which was clearly covered under warranty. Furthermore, ASUS stated that if payment for their alleged repairs wasn't received, the device would be returned unrepaired, and even disassembled. Imagine sending a faulty product to ASUS, only for them to ignore the actual defect, falsely void your warranty, charge you for non-existent damage, and then threaten to return a completely unusable device. Adding to the frustration was the immense time pressure imposed by ASUS. Eventually, after considerable persistence and a barrage of confusing, contradictory emails, ASUS finally repaired the product. But this wasn't an isolated incident of bad luck for Steve. These practices, it turned out, were routine for ASUS. Further evidence surfaced, like a repair quote for an RTX 4090 graphics card with a minuscule dent, priced at an astonishing $3,728 Canadian dollars. For context, a brand new RTX 4090 could be purchased for around $2,799 Canadian dollars. Within a mere week, Gamers Nexus's video documenting the ROG Ally incident surpassed 1.5 million views, and has since climbed to over 2.3 million. ASUS's deceptive warranty practices were now unequivocally exposed, drawing the scrutiny of the entire tech community. 5 days after the video's release, on May 16, 2024, ASUS finally issued a statement, though it was a peculiar one. They declared, "Currently, we perform a full analysis of devices sent for RMA, and send customers a comprehensive list of available repairs, free and paid, in our messaging to customers. We understand this may have caused confusion when a customer has only ordered a specific repair. We will no longer automatically offer repair quotations for cosmetic imperfections." They concluded with, "We deeply apologize to our customers and the community for any confusion and frustration they might have experienced from this." Essentially, ASUS implied that customers were simply confused, and that the company was merely graciously presenting options, despite their actions of overcharging for non-existent damage, voiding warranties, and threatening to return disassembled devices. Unsurprisingly, the public was far from satisfied. The backlash intensified, forcing ASUS to release another statement on May 23. This one promised a more comprehensive overhaul of their repair processes, including pledges for improved communication, better documentation, and revised repair pricing, all areas where ASUS had a notoriously poor track record. Yet, skepticism remained high among customers. Comments like, "This is just a PR stunt to make it look like they care, and that they're doing something. They won't change, this is who they are, and from now on ASUS goes on my warranty scammer list," reflected a deep distrust. Would anything truly change? 2 days later, Gamers Nexus launched its Warranty Response Kit. They understood that for genuine change to occur, customers needed to make their voices heard, not just to ASUS, but to the Federal Trade Commission. The kit provided detailed steps for filing a complaint, complete with all necessary information. But Gamers Nexus didn't stop there. They announced, "We have begun the process of connecting with congressional and senatorial representatives, are contacting the Federal Trade Commission, and have begun interviews with experts and advocates for consumers on these matters." This posed a significant threat to ASUS, as the company was already on the FTC's radar, having previously received a warning letter in 2018 regarding illegal warranty terms, one of 6 companies singled out. While these efforts unfolded, Gamers Nexus took the bold step of confronting ASUS directly, face-to-face, in Taiwan. ASUS's public statements had offered only vague promises of changes, leaving the critical question unanswered: what precisely would they fix? Over 2 separate discussions spanning 3 hours, Steve relentlessly pressed ASUS for concrete answers and firm commitments to improving their RMA process, holding them accountable. While some breakthroughs were achieved, the overall results were mixed. Nevertheless, Steve successfully compelled ASUS to agree to a specific list of changes. A month later, in July 2024, the FTC issued a new series of warning letters to several companies regarding voiding warranties, including Ashrock, Zotac, and Gigabyte. Notably, ASUS was not among this new list, likely because they had already received a similar warning from the FTC back in 2018. So, where does this leave ASUS today? Have things truly changed? There are indeed signs of improvement. ASUS established a new email address for customers with previously disputed warranty claims to submit them for re-review. To their credit, ASUS proactively revisited and settled over 120 cases, and reached out to more than 300 customers who had been incorrectly overcharged. A new repair center has also opened in North America, signaling a shift away from outsourcing repairs to cheaper third parties. There's also greater clarity in their processes, and customer-induced damage cases now undergo much stricter scrutiny. Furthermore, they've streamlined the RMA search system and eliminated shipping fees for repairs involving multiple issues. These are significant positive steps for ASUS. However, the situation is far from perfect. It appears some issues are still slipping through the cracks. As recently as December 2025, a customer sent a ROG RTX 5090 in for RMA due to random black screens. ASUS denied the warranty claim, citing a minuscule crack only visible under a microscope. They then quoted an astounding $4,661 Canadian dollars to replace the card, despite a brand new unit typically retailing for around $4,059 Canadian dollars. Even after months of negotiation, the best offer was a 50% discount, for a repair that should have been fully covered under warranty at no cost. Understandably, many customers remain apprehensive about purchasing ASUS products, and rightly so. The damage to their trust has been profound. ASUS's attempts to cut costs and void warranties whenever possible have severely tarnished their reputation. While the company continues to generate revenue, many dedicated fans and enthusiasts have moved on, with some vowing never to return. Rebuilding that lost trust will be a long and arduous journey, if it's even possible. What's truly remarkable is that this wasn't the first time Steve from Gamers Nexus challenged a tech giant. His previous confrontations have similarly shaken the industry.